Nowadays, when you find yourself playing really any major 2D platformer that's, you could say released in the last 10 to 15 years, you will notice a running theme throughout all of them that is much different from the 90s and early 2000s 2D platformers. You have absolute control over your character, which that's a good thing, right? People hear that and they think good. That's a good thing. Modern platforming is all about those little tiny micro adjustments and knowing where you're going to land, knowing how high you're going to jump, and knowing when you're going to stop, right? Knowing that if you stop in the middle of a jump, your character is just going to drop down into the abyss and you will die. It makes sense. That's how you would want a game, right? That's game design. That's good game design. Why would you not want that? But to me, that feels incredibly safe. Going back to the Super Nintendo, one of the probably the best consoles of all time, Rare had a completely different philosophy when designing Donkey Kong Country. And we know it wasn't because of the technology why Donkey Kong feels this way, because obviously Mario had a trilogy and then, Mario World before any of these Donkey Kong Country games on inferior hardware. So we know it wasn't technology as the main catalyst as to why Donkey Kong felt different, and the main reason that you didn't have total control over Donkey Kong. Rare wanted you to deal with the physics, and they wanted you to feel at least the most that you can feel as a real 300, 400 pound gorilla. Rare built an entire platforming empire around something that's practically completely gone from modern gaming, and that is momentum. When the original DKC dropped back in 1994, back when I was a whopping -7, everyone was obsessed with the soundtrack and the, still to this day, beautiful pre-rendered 3D graphics that the game boasted. But the real magic was being done under the hood, really away from anyone's subconscious. Donkey Kong didn't go from 0 to top speed instantly. You had to build up that speed, and that applies to the animal buddies as well. When you tried to stop, he would, he'd keep going for a frame or two. He would keep going, he would skid. In a lot of other games, those heavy slippery controls would be criticized, and it would feel unpolished, it would feel unfinished, and it would feel unfair. But Rare built the entire game around weaponizing the weight of the characters. Even Diddy Kong, who gets around obviously much easier than Donkey Kong does, clearly, even he feels heavy. And it all comes down to the roll. When you roll, Donkey Kong hurls his body weight forward. He picks up speed, and if you roll right off the edge of a platform, gravity doesn't just, boom, instantly yank you down to a pit. You can jump. Obviously, if you've played Donkey Kong Country before, even the new ones, Returns HD and Tropical Freeze, you roll into a pit and jump midair. That's possible. Your forward momentum carries you out over the empty space. And oftentimes, the game gives you a massive window to jump after you've left the ledge. And it commemorates you for that. It not commemorates. I don't know if commemorates is the right word. It gives you credit for that. Like, good job on that accomplishment, on using your resources. And by Donkey Kong Country 2, Rare had utterly perfected this. Diddy and Dix are definitely lighter, obviously, but the core philosophy is still definitely there. It's identical, almost. You are using enemies and you are using your momentum as a tool, as an actual weapon, as a stepping stone to keep your kinetic energy alive. It takes a totally different mindset than modern games do, and you have to commit. You have to commit to your jumps, and you have to commit to when you are going to jump, or when you are going to jump over an enemy, on an enemy, when you throw yourself into a roll off of a cliff. You are trusting the game's physics engine to carry you to your destination. You aren't threading a needle, you aren't throwing a bowling ball, you are waiting for it to hook and just hoping and praying that it works. Even in Donkey Kong Country 3, which definitely slowed the pace quite a bit. Some people liked that, a lot of people didn't. I think DKC 3 is a disgustingly underrated game. But the game still rewarded you for understanding the momentum that the game had to offer. Kiddy Kong is so heavy, he almost feels like he's heavier than Donkey Kong, which makes sense. If you roll him off of a ledge with enough speed, he will actually skip across water like a stone. I didn't know that. The first, 2 times I played the game, I had no idea that Kiddy Kong could skip across water. That was really cool to discover. It's a brilliant way of telling me, the player, that mass plus speed equals airtime. And one could argue that DKC3 actually uses momentum the best out of those 3 games because of Kiddy Kong alone. So, all this being said, momentum feels great. Some games obviously don't do it well. Some games, even 3D platformers, some games just feel slippery. They don't feel precise, they feel unpolished, unfinished, and it just doesn't work. But with Donkey Kong Country, it absolutely does work. So all this being said, why did the industry ever leave this behind? Why did 2D platformers ever stop incorporating this? I love Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but it's very easy to correct a jump in that game, right? It's got standard 2D platformer controls. Well, part of the reason I think we left this behind is just the simple evolution of game design. Levels got harder, players wanted tighter controls, technology got better, and so here we are. Even Retro Studios' amazing, great games, they changed the physics. You can still roll off a ledge, sure, but they feel much floatier. They are, again, they're fantastic games, but they just feel a little bit floatier. They just don't feel the same. In this day and age, we have a lot more control in games than we ever have in all of gaming history. That's obvious. You can't even argue that. That's just how it is. We have way more control over what our character does, both in 2D and 3D, 2.5D as well, but sometimes I don't want pixel perfect little adjustments that I can make in the air. Sometimes I want to hold down the Y button and throw my weight forward and just hope and pray and see how far the momentum takes me. And again, like I said earlier, like with Rambi, you can get going real quick when you're riding Rambi in these games. You can get going so fast. But again, that's what makes the original trilogy just feel primal. It makes it feel like you're actually in a jungle because you have these controls that you have to put your faith in the game. Just like Donkey Kong has to put his faith in this journey. He has to make sure that the destination that he is going, it's there, that he can actually make it there without dying, without falling, without getting killed by an enemy, without missing a jump. And when you miss a jump in these games, it feels punishing, not only because of the checkpoint system, but just because it's tricky. I saw a meme the other day on Dig, and it was Donkey Kong Country more like Very Hard Country. And it's dumb, but I thought that was hilarious because these games aren't easy. It has, again, I made a video on the purposeful difficulty of these games, and I think that not having that momentum in modern 3D platformers, or modern 2D platformers, I'm sorry, really does just kind of stink. It's not meant for every game. I don't think every game needs these, heavier controls and momentum-based platforming, but I think some do, and I think that was kind of a lost art, and at some point I hope we move back to that, at least in some capacity. So, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join the Just Nintendo Society Discord server pinned in the comments section. I will see you all in the next video. Have an amazing rest of your day, guys, and take care.